one of the, I'm so glad you raised that question, because I think it's one of the mistakes that our party makes. We'll say to everybody, oh, we're not big government. But when it comes to an issue that we like, we're big government. And I think you either got to be sincere to that or not. You're either big government or you're not. You don't get to pick and choose. So it should be a states' rights issue. It's been kidnapped by the court system, kidnapped by the federal government. I think that's wrong. Same thing's true of our educational system. In Vietnam, I had an opportunity a couple of times to be a firefight on the ground, and I sat a few times as a spotter, and right see these little spotter planes. There'd be a firefight on the ground, and there'd be a guy, a major, usually sometimes a colonel, flying around a helicopter, telling the lieutenant, usually on the ground, how he should fight the fight. The further away you are from the reality, the more poorly you're able to lead. That's what's happened to our education system in America today. It's been kidnapped by power and authority. One of the first things I would like to do if I could modify our educational system is get it back in the hands of the local government, back in the hands of teachers, parents, communities, principals, and out of federal authorities' hands. I didn't mean to digress there.
But does that mean you're against No Child Left Behind then?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's total nonsense. First off, they didn't fund it. I mean, what kind of deal is that? We're going to tell you what to do, but we're not going to give you the money to do it. That's a dishonorable process. It's almost guaranteed to fail. See, part of the problem with that, it's not that all the mandates that come from Washington or Raleigh are bad. Part of the problem is that it takes the heart out of the people who have to act on those mandates. They have all this tremendous sense of responsibility, but no sense of control or authority over their own destiny. We're stealing the classroom from the teachers. We're doing the same thing to physicians, by the way. You talk to a physician today, most of them, a lot of them, they're real, especially the guys that have been around, ladies that have been around a while, they're frustrated. Because everything's mandated. Here's what you got to do. And so we become like little robots, you know. It takes the heart out of us. How many of you had teachers who you could tell didn't care anymore? They're just marking time. Yeah. You may have some here. Definitely have them in the public school system. You know, they're just marking time. And we're robbing them of their heart. One of the worst situations you can get to, by the way, I got a bottle of water in there. Or a bottle of beer. You got one of the worst situations you can get into is where you have responsibility without authority. I don't care what deal you're in. Business, you name it. A parent, teacher, and that's what the system does to us now. Other questions?
The hurricanes striking the Gulf show us that we're still a country dependent on oil and everything, and that we are in fact in an energy crisis. And if elected to Washington D.C., what can you do? What are your issues on energy? What are you going to do to solve the energy crisis, etc.?
My opponents in favor speak strongly to not drilling. He's spoken in favor of the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. I'm just the opposite. Just the opposite. I drill in my backyard. I drill in your backyard. If you want me to. Drill anywhere and everywhere. Drill our best reserves, the most accessible best reserves. Go to Anwar, go off the coast, but hold those people accountable to do it properly. We know how to support a transportation-based economy and protect the environment at the same time. We know how to do that. Make sure they do it. Now, that's not the end of the story. Everybody that tells you we've got to get away from, an oil-based economy is, I don't particularly argue with them, but we're not going to do it today. Park your car. Everybody has a car in here, park it. You know, we're going to have these cars for a long time. We have to put fuel in them. We're dependent on that. That's okay. Start there, and then go for everything else. I had a solar collector on my house in the mid-'70s. The house I built in 1987, I put 6-inch walls in it because I like the idea of being careful about the environment. I'm not against that at all. Just exactly the opposite. I live it, breathe it, walk it in many ways. So I'm not against alternative energies. I'm against nonsense alternative energies. I think corn-based ethanol is a terrible mistake. I think when you take food out of people's mouths to fuel a car, I think that's wrong. It's had a horrific impact on Mexico. Ties in with illegal immigration and other things. The thing that's going to save our bacon, I believe, is that big red ball up in the sky. I believe we're going to figure out how to tap into that and not have to wait a million years until it makes oil and coal. I like that thing. I think the technology's going to be there. I'm not against incenting alternative technologies. I was over in Bryson City. You may have heard of a place called, some people call it the North Shore Road, some people call it the Road to Nowhere. Went to a graveyard visitation over there. Found out they had electrical power in that community of 6,000 or 7,000 people before Bryson City, which was the town seat, had electrical power. And they had little paddle wheels in the river. In Asheville, North Carolina, we ran our trolley system off of water-based electrical systems. Geothermal, wind, all that, that's great. Let's go for it. Let's be realistic about it, though. Go for all of the above. We're going to have to. But to walk away from energy, to pretend, to allow, I'll say it out loud, to allow environmental extremists to kidnap the dialogue is wrong. And I'll tell you one of the biggest reasons it's wrong. And you'll see it this winter. We're going to have little old ladies and little old guys sitting in houses all over western North Carolina freezing to death because they can't afford to spend $5 for a stinking gallon of oil. Now, is drilling going to take care of that all at once? No, of course not. I was talking to a guy in my office, I'm a psychologist who was a patient, last week who works for a gas company. He installs lines, and he was saying, you know, I don't know what the answer to all this is, but what people don't realize is when they change one thing, it affects another. You know, one of the reasons we have a natural gas shortage in America today, and we do, they're bringing it over in tankers. Natural gas coming over in tankers. One of the reasons we have a shortage? Because they passed a law requiring power plants to get their emissions down to a certain level. That makes sense. It's great. What's wrong with that? What did those power plants do? They switched from coal to... They didn't scrub out the coal like Asheville's system has done. They just switched to natural gas. Put them in competition with those little old ladies and little old men trying to heat their homes. And the prices skyrocketed. We don't have a coherent energy policy. I'm not sure how many of our policies in America are that coherent today. I think our leadership, again, is designed to pander and play the game and fight and agitate rather than solve problems. So it's a terrible concern. So I'm kind of an all-of-the-above kind of guy, and I'm definitely not for 55-mile-an-hour speeding. If you want to save gas in your car, drive 55. But I don't want that big government telling you to do it. I think that should be in your hands. Trade in, when you get out on your own, you've got a lot of money in your pocket, trade in that big clunker or SUV, whatever you got, for a more fuel-efficient vehicle. I like to leave it in the hands of folks as to how they chart their course.